Dear Intel, Apple is making their own chips now. You are not going to be able to win somebody over who is a Mac user by telling them that you're a commodity supplier for thousands of PCs when what they actually like to use comes from one company who decided that due to your poor thermal management and terrible battery life, they will no longer use your chipset. Signed, Garrett. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another video, and if you have been watching anything tech-related on YouTube, this ad has probably popped up a few times. Yeah, this ad is the Breaking the Spell ad from Intel, where they take Apple users, paid actors, and show them general features that are available in laptops, and then tell them that it's not actually something available on the Mac, but is actually available on the PC, and then leave out a bunch of things that most Apple users actually like about their computers and just end with Go PC. Yeah, there's a lot of issues I take with these ads. The first thing I'm going to start with that I don't like is just generally I don't like comparative ads. And the reason why I don't like comparative ads is because when you go after another company that is your direct competition in one way or another, you are opening the consumer up to doing research on the other company as well as you. If you've ever seen companies that want to compare in some way without directly calling out one company or another, you'll see that they'll say something generic like the competition. In fact, this year when Apple talked about the performance of their A15 processor in the iPhone, they actually said 50% faster than the competition. They didn't say Android, they didn't say Samsung, they just said the competition. That means that people who are looking at the iPhone are saying, okay, it's faster than some other phones. They don't actually know to go and look specifically for Samsung or Huawei. It's just another phone that it might be faster than. In a comparative ad campaign, when you specifically call out another company, like when Microsoft was calling out Apple for their iPad, that gives the consumer an opportunity to look at the Surface Go at its incredibly low price point and see what it actually ships with. And then look at the iPad that is more expensive and not a PC and realize that it actually comes with more at the lower price and is faster and gets better battery life. And because somebody who knows what they're looking at will see that the iPad is actually better for the price, Microsoft, by bringing up Apple as their direct competition, has now lost a customer or a potential customer. I always feel like it's better when you're marketing a product to be as generic as possible when comparing it to another, because it means that the consumer sees the hard, solid numbers of your product compared to the competition, something generic, a phone or a computer of a similar grade without calling out one specific brand name. That way, if the customer wants to research, they can, but they're more likely to take your word at face value because they don't know what you're directly comparing to. It's kind of sleazy and doesn't give you a whole lot of information, but on the same hand, your whole job as the marketing department is to market your product, not the competition's. Even if you're showing the competition in a bad light, you're still giving them more time than you ever really should. I could dive deeper by giving you an example of the Get a Mac campaign, but basically they were comparing the Mac, a specific line of products, to PCs, which is a very wide category. So yeah, same principle. Anyway, Intel decided to aim their sights directly at Apple because Apple has now decided to move away from Intel and make their own chips. So Intel, like an angry toddler getting their toys taken away, is stomping and screaming and crying and making a big fuss. And the first thing that Intel decides to point out in their childish temper tantrum is the fact that Macs don't have expandable storage, which is true, and admittedly I kind of wish they did. I actually did a whole video on a storage enclosure with a USB hub built in. You can check it out over there. And while yes, it is nice to be able to add storage externally, you still can't really beat internal storage. And the fact that Apple's locked that down on everything except their most high-end machines is a bit of a bummer. So okay, 1.4, not Intel, but all the manufacturers who decide to actually add expandable storage to their computers. We'll talk more about why Intel isn't really getting any points at all, ever, for this entire campaign later in the video. Another thing they do in these videos is ask these Apple users what feature they would like to have most on their Macs, and then cut together every soundbite of these Apple users asking for a touchscreen.
A touchscreen? Touchscreen. Touchscreen would be great.
And at this point, this is where I was kind of asking myself, are these actually Apple users? Because everybody who I know who's a casual Apple user kind of just goes, yeah, the touchscreen in my old computer was fine, but I don't mind not having one on the Mac. And people who I know who have been using Macs for years do not care about a touchscreen. In fact, they could care less about any touch input other than a trackpad. Most Mac users I know hate the touch bar, and that's as close as we've ever gotten to a touchscreen on these Macs. Most Apple users say, keep the touch on the phone and the iPad, and just give me a really good color-accurate display on the Macs. But whatever, let's just say that somehow Intel found the unicorn of Apple users, or they just found the casual Apple user who wants their touchscreen back. Fine. So the example Intel uses of a touchscreen computer is the Asus Zephyrus Duo UX58, which is, in my opinion, the ugliest laptop I have ever seen. And I remember seeing reviews for this when it first came out and thinking that it was the ugliest laptop I had ever seen. I don't like the Touch Bar Mac at all. And the fact that you took the Touch Bar and said, let's make it so big we have to put the trackpad next to the keyboard instead of below it like any other laptop is terrible. But actually, that's not really Intel's fault. That's on Asus. So, Intel gets a pass on this one. And then, of course, they show off the 2-in-1s and the fact that it can fold over into a tablet and back to a laptop. And the model they're showing, I think, is a Lenovo 2-in-1, probably a Yoga. And honestly, as a PC, those aren't bad PCs. Whatever. Hey, Editor Garrett here. Totally forgot to mention this, but yeah, they also threw in the obligatory you can't game on a Mac thing, which I didn't care enough about to even remember to write when I was putting in my little notes for the main video there. But yeah, they threw that in there because, yeah, Macs can't game. Like, if I'm sitting out at a Mac, it's to work. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who do the same thing with a PC. So gaming isn't the end-all be-all, and saying Macs can't game is like saying PCs can't run Final Cut. It's like, well, yeah, no duh. The software wasn't designed for that platform. So what? Like, if you're going to buy a gaming PC, you're probably going to game. If you're going to buy a Mac, you're probably going to be doing something other than gaming. I have never known anybody to buy a Mac for gaming, unless you're loading into boot camp with a Mac Pro. And in that case, it's kind of crazy. Anyway, this is how low it is on my priorities of, oh, you can't game on a Mac, because I literally forgot until right now. Anyway, back to the video. Yeah, Macs can't game. Poor Mac users can't game. Oh, wait. Xboxes and gaming PCs and PlayStations exist. Anyway, back to the video. Then, of course, they open up this room and show off all these other fancy PCs, and the one old dude looks at this gaming PC and is like, it looks like a work of art.
That's beautiful. It looks like a piece of artwork.
Yeah, and you would probably use it to browse Facebook the same way you would use an iPad. Not to hate on the actual dude, but like that piece of art PC is not marketed towards somebody like that guy unless he's really into gaming. If somebody looks at a PC like that and says it looks like a work of art without understanding what it does, it's probably not the PC for them. And of course, we get a bunch of other clips of people freaking out over these PCs that are PCs and not Macs. What? Oh my gosh, they're amazing. And then we get the very subtle Go PC marketing. So Intel didn't learn from the other Get a PC campaign with the old Mac guy. Great. I could go into more detail about why actual Mac users wouldn't really care about some of these features because other features would stop working. Features like iMessage, iCloud integration, handoff, continuity, all those things missing from a PC if somebody's actually an Apple user would make the Apple user just get up and leave the room. But I'm not going to go in depth with that because I've already rambled enough about the other stuff. But the biggest problem I have with this campaign is the fact that nothing in that room or handed to those users is made by Intel. Yeah, the chips in the computers were made by Intel, but none of the computers on display in this ad were made by Intel. And this goes back to why I said that the design for that Zephyrus Duo was so terrible, but I can't give Intel crap for it, because Intel didn't make it. And they didn't make the 2-in-1, and they didn't make the gaming PC that the guy thought was a work of art. They didn't make any of these. This is all just a big room of random PCs from other companies that Intel happens to have their chip in, because Intel is a commodity manufacturer. And because they're losing what I would assume is one of their bigger revenue sources in Apple, they are just full attacking Apple because of it. I mean, I know I'm kind of stating the obvious there, but yeah, the problem is that Apple was making thinner and lighter machines that Intel couldn't keep up with, so Apple said, fine.
I'll do it myself.
And now they're making the M1, and as an M1 user, I can say I've never heard the fans ramp up on any of my M1 products, and if they had kept going with Intel, we wouldn't have gotten something like the iMac. That thing is insanely powerful and runs on 1 or 2 fans, and is so thin you can't put a headphone jack through it. That's crazy. I don't want to rant too much, but what I'm getting at is that Intel is a commodity parts manufacturer. They make the processor, and everything that they show off in an ad isn't made by them. It's made by somebody else who is using them as a supplier for the processor. And they could really, if they wanted to, go after AMD and the companies that go exclusively with AMD just as hard. But I don't think they will, because you get more attention when you go after Apple. It's like if the tire company Pirelli was making tires for all these different cars, but then for some reason Ferrari was making a car that couldn't go faster because of the Pirelli tires, and Ferrari made their own tires that could go faster. And because of that, Pirelli says, look at all these other options that are out there that are better than Ferrari. But they didn't make the cars. They only made the tires that go on the cars. And the tires are fundamentally worse than whatever Ferrari's putting on their cars that allow them to go faster. That's basically what Intel's doing. They're saying, look at all these amazing options you get when you go with Intel. When in reality, it's look at all these amazing options that manufacturers are making that they happen to choose us to put our chips in because they have enough cooling to do so. And Apple didn't really have a need for Intel once they realized that their chips were faster, more power efficient, and cooler. I don't know. I made a video talking about the 2 M1 Mac Minis that I bought and how incredibly powerful they were, and the fact that they were demolishing an i9 MacBook Pro. So you can go watch that video if you want to. It'll be right over there, and come to your own conclusion. But I'm just sick of seeing this ad, and I figured that this would be the best way to sort of let out my irritation with this style of ad campaign. And a little tidbit for you now that we're wrapping up the video. Vertical integration, and the vertical integration that is allowed through Apple making their own processor to work with their own boards, to work with their own software, allows for incredible optimization and features. And they've been doing this with their phones for years. And if you want proof that that optimization is actually a very powerful tool, this entire video was filmed on the iPhone 13 Pro Max in cinematic mode. And I put it in the same position that I put my normal camera. And apart from it being 1080p, let me know in the comments, could you tell that this was actually not filmed on a proper cinema-style camera? I await your comments. Either way, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about this, and if you have any other thoughts or comments about this style of video. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure to be there, and have a good one.